The night that changed everything. Lucia always believed her brother's best friend hated her. Not loudly. Not openly. But in that quiet, dismissive way that hurt even more. To Daniel Reyes she was the little sister. Too soft. Too emotional. Too privileged. Someone who never had to fight for respect. And Lucia Binet had spent her entire adult life proving that assumption wrong. The neon lights of Las Vegas blurred into streaks of color as she stepped out of the limousine, heels clicking against the pavement with confidence she'd learned the hard way. The Venetian towered above her, glittering with excess, temptation, and permission to forget everything she was back home. Madrid. Her father's company. The boardrooms where men twice her age questioned her decisions because she shared a last name with the CEO. Tonight, she wasn't Lucia Binet, the boss's daughter. Tonight, she was just Lucia. Her red dress hugged her curves with unapologetic elegance. Not flashy, but commanding. It wasn't chosen to impress anyone. It was chosen to remind herself that she belonged anywhere she stood. "Birthday girl," her friend Maya shouted, looping an arm through hers. "You ready to make bad decisions?" Lucia laughed. "Only the kind I won't regret." The universe apparently had other plans. She saw him near the poker tables. Tall, relaxed, infuriatingly handsome in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled just enough to show strength earned, not flaunted. Daniel Reyes, her brother's best friend. The man who had teased her, challenged her, dismissed her, and somehow always watched her when he thought she wasn't looking. Their eyes met. For one split second, the noise of the casino faded. Of course he'd be here. Vegas loved cruel timing. "Lucia," Daniel said, approaching with that infuriating half-smile. "Didn't think your brothers let you roam free." She lifted her chin. "Didn't think you remembered fun existed outside spreadsheets and hotel acquisitions." His eyes flickered, surprised then something darker. "You look," he paused, "dangerous. Different." She smirked. That's what happens when you stop seeing someone as a child. The tension between them wasn't new. It had been building for nearly 8 years. Sharp comments, accidental touches, unspoken things hanging heavy in the air. Everyone assumed they disliked each other. The truth was far more complicated. 3 hours later, Lucia had lost track of how many tequila shots she'd taken. Or how close Daniel was standing. Or how easy it felt to laugh with him. To bad decisions, someone toasted. To Vegas, another added. Daniel leaned in, his voice low against her ear. To things we'll pretend never happened. Her heart skipped. Scared? He smiled slowly. Always. Someone joked about wedding chapels. Someone dared them. And pride, sweet, stupid pride, did the rest. The chapel smelled like neon lights and poor choices. Pink hearts blinked on the walls. An Elvis impersonator waited impatiently as laughter echoed through the tiny room. "This is insane," Lucia whispered, bouquet of fake roses shaking in her hands. Daniel's fingers intertwined with hers. "Steady. Warm. Still time to walk away," he murmured. She looked at him, not the CEO, not her brother's friend, but the man who had challenged her to be stronger every time the world underestimated her. "Why should I?" The vows blurred. The ring was cheap metal. The kiss was not fake. It tasted like tequila, rebellion, and 8 years of tension finally breaking. Applause erupted. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elvis announced, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Reyes." The next morning, reality arrived like a punch. Lucia woke up in a luxury suite she didn't recognize. A man slept beside her. A ring glinted on her finger. Her phone exploded with notifications. Viral video. Headlines. Her brother's calling. Daniel sat up, staring at his own ring in disbelief. "Please tell me this isn't real," he said hoarsely. Lucia swallowed hard. "We're married." Silence stretched between them. Two people who had spent years pretending they felt nothing, now bound by law, headlines, and consequences neither of them had planned for. And outside the window Las Vegas glittered, completely indifferent to the chaos it had created. The fallout no one expected. Lucia had faced hostile boardrooms, whispering co-workers, and subtle humiliation dressed up as concern. None of it prepared her for her brother's reaction. The phone rang again. And again. And again. Daniel watched her pace the hotel suite, one hand tangled in her hair, the other gripping her phone like it might explode. "Don't answer," he said quietly. She stopped. Looked at him. "They're my brothers. And I'm their best friend," he replied. "Which means whatever they say to you, they're about to say worse to me." As if summoned by his words, his phone buzzed. Daniel Reyes rarely feared confrontation. He negotiated billion-dollar deals, shut down hostile takeovers, and stared down board members who thought intimidation was a strategy. But the name flashing on his screen made his stomach tighten. Marco Bennett. Oldest brother. Protector. Judge. Daniel answered. Talk, Marco said coldly. Yes, Daniel replied, already standing straighter. We're married. Pause. Then, explain. Daniel glanced at Lucia, who had gone perfectly still, her face pale but determined. It wasn't planned, he said carefully. But it was legal. And it was mutual. Lucia grabbed the phone. I wasn't drunk enough to be manipulated, Marco. That's not what I'm asking, Marco snapped. I'm asking why the man I trusted like a brother married my sister without ever dating her. Lucia's voice trembled, but not with weakness. With anger. Because everyone assumes I need permission, she said. From you. From Dad. From the world. Silence. Then Marco sighed. We'll talk when you get back. The call ended. Lucia dropped onto the couch, hands shaking. Well, Daniel said dryly, that went mildly better than expected. She laughed once, sharp and humorless. You're impossible. You married me, he reminded her. She shot him a look. That's still under review. The press didn't wait. By noon, the internet had turned their impulsive decision into a fairy tale, complete with speculation, judgment, and unsolicited opinions. Some called it romantic. Others called it irresponsible. More than a few accused Lucia of marrying up. That last part hurt more than she expected. Did you see this? Daniel asked that evening, showing her a headline. CO marries boss's daughter after Vegas bender, strategic alliance or love story? Lucia swallowed. They think I planned it, she said quietly. That I used you. Daniel's jaw tightened. Anyone who knows you knows better. She looked at him. Do you? The question landed heavier than either of them anticipated. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He thought of the way Lucia argued her points in meetings, calm but relentless. The way she never complained even when dismissed. The way she wore her confidence like armor, not decoration. Yes, he said finally. I do. A knock at the door interrupted them. Daniel's assistant, Ethan, stepped inside with a tablet and an expression that said this is bad but salvageable. We have a situation, Ethan said. And a solution. Lucia crossed her arms. That sounds ominous. Ethan smiled nervously. Your marriage has actually boosted investor confidence. Daniel blinked. Excuse me? Traditional investors like stability, family, commitment. Ethan scrolled. If you file for annulment now, it'll look reckless. If you lean into it, temporarily, we control the narrative. Lucia stiffened. Temporarily? 4 months, Ethan said. Until the acquisition closes. After that, amicable separation. Lucia stared at Daniel. Daniel stared back. Fake it, Lucia said slowly. We pretend this is real. Daniel exhaled. Live together. Appear together. Convince the world. And our families, Lucia added. And ourselves, Ethan said quietly. Silence filled the room. Lucia stood. 4 months, she said. Then we walk away. Daniel nodded. No emotional complications. She snorted. From you? Please. Ethan clapped his hands. Fantastic. I'll draft the statement. After he left, the room felt smaller. So, Daniel said, rubbing the back of his neck. Guess you're moving in. Lucia raised an eyebrow. Your apartment? It's big. Minimal distractions. She smirked. Translation, emotionally sterile. He smiled despite himself. The move was awkward. Daniel's penthouse was immaculate. Cold marble, neutral tones, everything in its place. Lucia's suitcase looked like rebellion rolling across the floor. You alphabetize your spices? She asked. Efficiency, he replied. She moved the coffee machine. You keep this too far from the cups. He opened his mouth to argue. Then stopped. Something about watching her exist in his space felt grounding. The first week passed in careful politeness. Public smiles. Private distance. Until the gala. Cameras flashed as they stepped onto the red carpet. Daniel's hand resting at Lucia's waist, firm, protective. You okay? He murmured. She nodded. Don't let go. I won't. They danced. And it wasn't fake. They moved like they belonged together, like their bodies understood something their minds were still denying. Daniel noticed the looks, admiration, envy. Lucia noticed the whispers. She's lucky. He could do better. She married power. When a woman loudly joked, guess marrying rich really works, Lucia smiled sweetly. Yes, she said. So does working hard. Daniel squeezed her hand. Later that night, they stood on the balcony, city lights glowing below. You didn't have to defend me, Lucia said. I wanted to, Daniel replied. The honesty startled them both. Days blurred into shared routines. Coffee made just how Lucia liked it. Late nights. Quiet laughter. Until one morning, Lucia overheard a board call. Is she capable? A voice asked. She's the CEO's daughter, another scoffed. This marriage just confirms it. Lucia stepped back, heart pounding. Daniel ended the call early. He found her standing rigid in the hallway. They think I'm decoration, she said flatly. Daniel's eyes darkened. They're wrong. Then prove it, she said. Let me lead the Madrid expansion. Silence. Then Daniel smiled. Done. The board meeting was brutal. Lucia was questioned, challenged, dismissed. Until she spoke. With data. With clarity. With authority. By the end, silence replaced skepticism. One board member cleared his throat. Well, that was impressive. Lucia met Daniel's gaze. Respect, not pity, filled the room. Later, alone in the elevator, Daniel said quietly, I underestimated you once. She tilted her head. Only once. He smiled. Never again. That night, they sat across from each other, tension thick. This isn't fake anymore, Lucia whispered. Daniel reached for her hand. Then maybe it never was. They leaned closer. Too close. The door opened. Reality rushed back in. They pulled apart, but the truth lingered. And neither of them slept. When the mask slips, Lucia stopped pretending the moment she realized how tired she was. Tired of smiling for cameras. Tired of being understood only when she proved herself twice over. Tired of watching people respect her marriage more than her mind. What she wasn't ready to admit, what scared her far more, was how real Daniel was becoming to her. Not the CEO. Not her brother's best friend. But the man who remembered how she took her coffee, who stayed quiet when she needed space, and who looked at her like she was something rare instead of convenient. The breaking point came quietly. No cameras. No arguments. Just exhaustion. Lucia came home late one night, heels in hand, shoulders slumped. Daniel was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, hair messy, glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed reports. You're still up, she murmured. He looked up immediately. Rough day? She nodded once. Without asking, he poured her a glass of water and slid it across the counter. She stared at it. Then at him. Why are you nice to me when no one's watching? She asked softly. Daniel didn't answer right away. Because the truth was dangerous. Because you deserve it, he finally said. That night, she cried in the shower so he wouldn't hear. But he did. The following week brought pressure from every direction. The media wanted a love story. The board wanted results. Her brothers wanted reassurance. And Lucia felt herself disappearing behind expectations again. Until Daniel invited her to one of his site visits. No press. No executives. Just operations. You don't need to come, she said. I want you there, he replied. They walked the half-renovated hotel together. Workers greeted Daniel respectfully, then Lucia noticed something. They listened to her. Really listened. When she suggested a change to the lobby flow, the architect paused. Considered it. Then nodded. That's better, he admitted. Daniel watched quietly. Later, alone, he said, You see things others miss. Lucia exhaled. I've had to. That night, they shared wine on the balcony. The city hummed beneath them. Daniel leaned back. Can I tell you something without it changing things? She hesitated. That depends. He met her gaze. I've never let myself want this. Her breath caught. Want what? Someone who challenges me. Who doesn't need me, but chooses me. Silence stretched. Lucia stood. We should stop talking. Yes, he agreed. Immediately. Neither moved. Their first real kiss wasn't dramatic. It was slow, careful, uncertain, and devastating. Lucia pulled away first. We can't. Daniel closed his eyes. I know. But knowing didn't make it easier. The fallout came faster than expected. An anonymous article dropped 2 days later. Inside the fake Vegas marriage, sources claim it's all for show. Lucia read it twice, her hands trembling. They're calling me a social climber, she whispered. Daniel was already on the phone, voice sharp. Pull the meeting forward. Now. The emergency board session was ruthless. Is this marriage legitimate? One investor demanded. Lucia stood before Daniel could stop her. Yes, she said clearly. But my competence doesn't come from my ring. It comes from my work. Murmurs rippled. Another investor sneered. Then prove it. She did. Numbers. Strategy. Vision. By the end, the room was silent. Daniel spoke last. Anyone who doubts her value can exit my company. No one did. Afterward, in the empty boardroom, Lucia shook. Daniel wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. They tried to break you, he said. She looked up at him. They always do. Not this time. Her brothers confronted her that night. You're falling for him, Marco said gently. Lucia didn't deny it. Daniel faced them next. I won't hurt her, he said. Marco studied him. Then don't. That night, Lucia and Daniel stood on opposite sides of the bedroom. This is getting impossible, she said. Daniel nodded. I don't want 4 months. Her heart slammed. Neither do I. They crossed the room at the same time. This time they didn't stop. And nothing about it felt fake. When truth demands a price. Lucia woke before sunrise. Not because of noise. Not because of dreams. But because reality had finally caught up. Daniel lay beside her, one arm draped protectively over her waist, his breathing slow and even. In sleep he looked younger. Less guarded. Less like the man who controlled boardrooms with silence and more like someone who could be hurt. And that terrified her. Carefully, she slipped out of bed and stood by the window watching the city wake. For the first time since Vegas, the weight of everything pressed down on her chest at once. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't part of the plan. 4 months. A performance. A clean ending. Instead, she was falling in love with the one man who could complicate her life more than anyone else. Running away? Daniel's voice was low, rough with sleep. She turned. No, she said honestly. Thinking. He sat up, sheets pooling at his waist. That's worse. She almost smiled. Almost. Daniel, she said quietly, what happens when this stops being a secret? He didn't pretend not to understand. The press will destroy us, she continued. Your investors will panic. My father's board will say I used you. My brothers will think you crossed a line. And you? He asked. She swallowed. I'll lose the one thing I've fought for my whole life, being taken seriously on my own. Daniel stood and crossed the room, stopping a breath away. You already are, he said firmly. You don't lose that because of me. But they'll say I did, she replied. And they'll believe it. He cupped her face gently. Then we prove them wrong. The moment shattered when his phone rang. Ethan. Daniel answered, his expression shifting mid-call. Lucia knew that look. Send it, Daniel said flatly. He ended the call and handed her the phone. An email, leaked documents. Their agreement. The timeline. The word temporary highlighted like a weapon. Lucia felt the room tilt. They found the contract, she whispered. The headline followed minutes later. Fake marriage confirmed. CEO and executive daughter staged relationship. The backlash was immediate. Sponsors withdrew. Investors demanded explanations. Commentators ripped Lucia apart. She slept her way into power. This is what privilege looks like. Another woman hiding behind a man's name. Lucia shut her laptop, hands shaking. Daniel was already pulling on clothes. I'm calling a press conference. No, she said sharply. He froze. Lucia. No, she repeated. This ends my way. He searched her face. What does that mean? She lifted her chin, the same way she had in every room that tried to diminish her. It means I walk in alone. The press room buzzed with hunger. Lucia stepped onto the stage without Daniel beside her. The room stilled. She didn't smile. My marriage was questioned, she began calmly. So was my integrity. My competence. My worth. Cameras flashed. Yes, she said. We agreed to present our relationship differently at first. But what you refuse to acknowledge is that no agreement ever gave me intelligence, leadership, or vision. A reporter scoffed. Then why stay married? Lucia met his gaze without flinching. Because love doesn't always start clean, she said. But respect should never be optional. Murmurs rippled. She continued. I will be stepping down from my role in my father's company, effective immediately. Gasp. And accepting a position I earned, she added, leading the Madrid expansion independently under my own leadership. She stepped back. Daniel watched from the side, heart pounding, not with fear but pride. She didn't need saving. She never had. The fallout was brutal. Lucia moved out that night, not because she stopped caring but because she refused to hide behind him. I need to know I'm choosing you, she told him at the door, tears shining but unfallen. Not clinging to safety. Daniel nodded, voice tight. Then I'll wait. Weeks passed. Lucia rebuilt from scratch. No family name. No marriage shield. Just her. And she thrived. The final board vote came quietly. Daniel stood alone at the head of the table. Lucia Binet leads this expansion, he said simply. Or I walk. They approved it unanimously. Daniel found Lucia on the rooftop where they'd first shared wine. You won, he said. She smiled softly. We did. He reached for her hand, not as a shield but as a choice. This time she didn't pull away. The respect that changed everything. Lucia didn't return to Daniel's penthouse right away. Not because she didn't want to, but because she needed to know, deep in her bones, that when she did, it wouldn't be out of fear, comfort, or obligation. It would be choice. For the first time in her life, she lived alone in a modest apartment near the new Madrid project site. No marble floors. No designer furniture. Just white walls, sunlight, and silence that forced her to sit with herself. And she grew. She worked longer hours than she ever had before, not to prove anything but because the work finally felt like hers. The Madrid expansion moved faster under her leadership. Costs dropped. Guest satisfaction rose. Industry insiders started asking questions. Who was Lucia Binet without her last name? The answer came quietly. She was formidable. 3 months after the scandal, an international hospitality journal published its annual ranking. Top 10 emerging leaders redefining luxury hospitality. Lucia's name was number 3. No mention of marriage. No mention of scandal. Just her work. Daniel read the article twice. Then a third time. When he finally saw her again, it was at the project's soft opening ceremony. Lucia stood on the stage in a tailored navy suit. No red dress this time, no spectacle. Just confidence earned the hard way. Applause filled the room as she finished speaking. Daniel stayed back watching. For the first time he wasn't protecting her. He was admiring her. She found him near the back afterward. You came, she said softly. I wouldn't miss it, he replied. They stood there, surrounded by celebration, yet strangely alone in the moment. I didn't come back because I was scared anymore, Lucia said. I came because I wanted to see if you were still here. Daniel didn't hesitate. I never left. She nodded. Then we need to talk. They walked outside, city lights glowing around them. I won't be hidden, she said. I won't be diminished. And I won't be someone's accessory. Daniel took her hands, steady and sure. You are my equal. Or I don't deserve you. She searched his face. No games, no ego. Only truth. What about the marriage? She asked quietly. He smiled. I stopped thinking of it as a mistake a long time ago. Lucia laughed, tears spilling freely now. I hated you once. I know. And you underestimated me. I did, he admitted. And it's the biggest regret of my life. She stepped closer. Then spend the rest of it respecting me. I already do. They didn't rush. They rebuilt, slowly, publicly, honestly. When Lucia and Daniel finally stood together at a press conference months later, there was no spin. No script. Just truth. Yes, Lucia said, fingers intertwined with Daniel's. We married impulsively. Daniel added, and learned that respect isn't automatic, it's earned. And we earned ours, Lucia finished. The response was different this time. No mockery. No doubt. Only admiration. At the anniversary of the Madrid opening, Lucia stood beside Daniel, not as the CEO's wife, but as Director of European Development. Her brothers watched proudly from the crowd. Her father applauded the loudest. Daniel leaned in and whispered, Vegas really did change everything. Lucia smiled. No, I did.